morning, everyone, and welcome to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. I'm Attorney Coral Pleas, the host of the show. Would like to thank you for joining me this morning. The Money Talk show is sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan Association. And I am happy to announce that one of Columbia's directors is here in the studio with me this morning. I know this man doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Dr. MOSE Fuller, please greet the audience.
How's everyone doing this morning? I'm Pastor Fuller, St. Timothy Community Baptist Church, and also a board of directors at Columbia Savings and Loan Bank, one of the best bank in the city of Milwaukee, the best bank in the state of Wisconsin.
There you go. I was going to say, we can't limit it to the city of Milwaukee. We got to say the state of Wisconsin, or I'm going to say in the United States.
In the United States.
How about that?
That's good. That's great.
And next year we come back and I'll say it's the best bank in the world.
In the world.
All right?
That's right.
That's where we're headed with this. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming in today. And I asked you to come today in particular. First of all, thank you for the times that you filled in when I wasn't able to be here.
Oh, we had a ball, man.
Yeah. You get a good response. And so I definitely do thank you for filling in. I wasn't on the beach anywhere, sipping daiquiris or anything, but we have to push up our sleeves sometimes to get work done with this bank. And I have to make that my priority. As much as I love to be here, sometimes, it gets to be a challenge. So thank you for always stepping up and filling in.
Appreciate that.
So I do really appreciate that. So, but yeah, I asked you particularly to come here today because we are at the very end of Black History Month. And I thought, you know what? We are a Black history story. Columbia Savings and Loan Association is a story for Black History Month. And before the end of the month gets here, I wanted to come in and talk about the history of Columbia Savings and Loan.
Right.
So yeah. So some facts that I'm going to share with the audience, and then I'll ask you, Doc Fuller, because that's what I call you, to just chime in, whenever you think it's appropriate. So much of the history of this bank, and we've talked about it before on the show, but some of this stuff, it's so interesting and it's so exciting that it bears repeating. And there may be people that haven't heard and don't know the backstory for Columbia.
Exactly.
So first, I just wanted to say Columbia Savings and Loan Association was founded back in 1924. So yes, we did celebrate our centennial anniversary last year. So that was a good night. Remember that?
That was a great night. And I was looking at some of my notes and I was reflecting on these two individuals that really had the vision, and that's what Columbia Savings and Loan is really about. It's about Black people coming into a city where the Black population was shut out, removed from access to the very thing that people need in order to really have a great life, make a living not only for themselves, but also for their kids and their grandkids and generations. They couldn't access capital.
Right.
They didn't have a bank. Can you imagine that?
No.
Really, when you think about how idiotic, prejudice and segregation is, it never make any sense. But you don't want a bank with folks that can bring money to your institution. You tell them you don't want their business.
Right.
And these individuals, Wilbur Halyard and Artie Clark Halyard.
Yes, let's talk about them a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about what you were saying about there not being a Black bank, and we'll talk about the why that they started it. But let's back up and talk about them a little bit. So Wilbur was from South Carolina, right? He was born back in 1894. Which, just thinking about people born in the 1800s, it seems like it's so long ago, but no, he lived until the 1960s. So that's a modern time. His wife was born in 1896. That's Artie Halyard, Artie Clark Halyard, as you just said. And she was born in 1896, but she lived till 1989.
Wow.
So to modern times. So when Wilbur was born in South Carolina, I guess the capital of South Carolina was Columbia, hence the name of this organization. And he was a graduate of Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. And then when they moved to the Milwaukee community, He served as an active member of the NAACP for over 25 years as president in beginning in 1929, and he was the Wisconsin State Conference treasurer and on the board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, Mr. Halyard served on the board of the Milwaukee Urban League, and he worked with the Northside YMCA and served as a trustee at Calvary Baptist Church. Can you just imagine all of that?
I can imagine it, and when you're involved like that, that's why we are right now in our country, that we have to get involved. We can't sit down, we can't stay on the couch, we got to go out, we got to do something. These people were involved. They were involved in the community. And as I said before, they were involved in the community and they saw the needs of the community. Once you're involved, then you can see the needs, and then you can get out there and say, we know this need to take place. They don't have a black bank. They can't get money from any place else. Let's start this. This is something that's going to immediately, not a 5 or 6 years down the road, but right away.
Right.
People are going to benefit.
Absolutely.
And then, you know what, Attorney Cora, when you do that, you're going to be investing, kind of like investing in yourself.
Right.
And that's what people need to do, man. And when we come up against hard time, we come up against institutions and bureaucracies that is standing against the very progress of a people, then we have to say, well, look, the most important thing that I have is my mind, and I can invest in self. And once you invest in self, you always have to remember that God is always on the throne. And once you invest in yourself, you invest in self, and you have this godly perspective, then things are going to really start happening in your life. That's what these people did.
That's exactly what they did. And you can tell because it takes that mindset that you just described to be involved in all these organizations. Mm-hmm. Now, that was Mr. Halyard.
Oh, man.
Look at Mrs. Halyard.
Yeah.
I mean, just as much. And particularly, even for a woman back then, she was a leader. She was a trailblazing leader. So Artie Halyard was born, as I mentioned, in 1896, but she was born in the state of Georgia. The eldest of 16 children.
They had big families.
Yeah, they
there was 9 of us, so we didn't quite get that. But they, they had big families, but they were families.
Yeah,
and they stayed together, and they knew what family meant, and that's important. See, don't make sometimes it don't matter. Sometimes big families can really be a blessing if you understand the idea of family, how families support each other, families stay together, build together, and then and God is involved in all of that. And good things just happen.
Right. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. No, you're telling the truth. So the eldest of 16, imagine that. So, I was just saying, well, wow, she was a trailblazer. She was a leader. I guess you got to be. If you're the eldest of 16, you're born into the role.
Yeah. And then when you look at the history of black people, period, in this country, the black woman has stood. If you extract the black woman from the black family, then you're really gonna be in trouble. Yeah. The black man is really important, but the black woman when the man hadn't, even where we are right now with our black families, the black woman, think about how the tenacity and the boldness of the black woman to 72% of black families are led by women today, and the woman is out there on the front. She's not giving up anything. She's standing in for two. Mm-hmm. When the man is not there for whatever reason, he's not there. The black woman is standing there, and that's what these people did then.
Right.
When you look at Black history, that's really not surprising. Harriet Tubman and all these folks, and it's just another example.
Right.
And the thing about this story and what make Columbia such a unique institution and such a not only unique but powerful, it really is. It's a powerful institution, and I think that God is allowing it to be around so that story can be told. And see, Milwaukee. When you look at the psychology and the spirit of Milwaukee, Milwaukee is one of those cities that hasn't been good to other ethnic groups, white or black. But when you are black, you're really at a disadvantage. And you know, when blacks first came, when it was Audie and Wilbur first came, you know, Wilbur and Audie first came, black folks were only allowed to live in certain areas of the city.
Right.
Down towards Juneau, down towards, and that was kind of like the valley,
Exactly.
probably the worst part. And so they came into a situation like that you could only go so far north. But you know what? It didn't matter, man. They had a vision. They had a mission. Watch this. They had gone to school, got their education, and you know what? They believed in themselves. And they believed that they could make a difference.
Yeah.
That's what we have to believe today. Our young folks, all you got to do, believe in yourself.
Right, right.
Believe in the God-given capacity that he has given you, and believe that you can make a difference.
Yeah.
Might not have all the money we want, but you got some money.
Right.
But the most important thing you got your mind.
Yeah.
And we have the numbers in this city to really make a difference.
Absolutely. And these two people had that mindset.
They had that mindset.
In terms of what you just described. And, you know, she was a graduate of Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. And she, too, was an active member of the Milwaukee branch of the NAACP. And she served as the first female president, in the Wisconsin State Conference president and treasurer. She was employed by Goodwill Industries for over 20 years because, as you know, they worked other jobs while they got this bank going. You talked about a moment ago about not having much. I've read where they started this bank with $10.
Yeah, that's same
and they
thing.
didn't pay themselves for more than 10 years. Imagine working somewhere for 10 years, not paying yourself, and then working some other job in order to make ends meet because they so believed in the vision of what they were doing to get Columbia off and running.
See, that's the beauty. When you talk about Black history, you know, and you talk about, you know, the struggles that Black people have had throughout the history of this nation, a story like what we're talking about today is just so good. In order to when we look at it, we might look at where we are right now and say we don't think it's really bad. No, things ain't that. Things are not bad now. It might be a little bump in the road. But the bump in the road, when you talk about what they went through, $10, they started, and they sacrificed 10 years of paychecks investing back into the company, in order for the company to make it. And 100 years later, we're still talking about that story.
Right.
That's what sacrifice does.
Yeah. No.
That's what vision does.
Yeah.
Tenacity does those types of things. And you know what? Black people have that. We just got to put it to work more. They put it to work. They came out and they came to the city back in 1923. And you look at 1923.
Right.
Milwaukee, man. Yeah, I read this book called The Making of Milwaukee. Milwaukee was so relegated to segregation. Not only when the Polish and the Irish and the Italians came, but Black folks, they didn't have a chance of really integrating themselves into any type of system that's going to benefit them. But they created their own system.
Right. So something to be said for creating your own system.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Know, and I wouldn't sit here and say I'm anti-integration, but you know, it needs to be carefully thought about, in my opinion, because you know, we and now I'm jumping around a little bit, but we're talking about Black history, right? So I'm just even talking about the civil rights movement, and it was very well intended, you know. But somehow fighting for the rights to go and spend our dollars with outside of our community kind of backfired when you look at what happened with Black-owned businesses. And, you know, we fought for the right to go, if we want to go eat, go pay our money to a white-owned diner.
That didn't want you there.
That didn't want us there, right? But we fought for the right to give them our money. Then what happened to our Black-owned diners? Then they struggle, right? Yeah. So anyway, this is my opinion that just throwing out there because we're just talking about things here.
And you know, and I'm looking at some notes that I had gotten. I'm looking at the story here, and it said founding vision and mission. Mm-hmm. That's what they had. You know, the idea when you're a leader. See, leaders do that type of stuff. Leaders they find vision and they find a mission for themselves. Yes. And that's what they did. they saw a need out there, and they said, we're going to meet that need.
Right.
We're going to meet it.
Mm-hmm.
And they was in the right place. God had them in the right place at the right time. And then when you look at looked at their background, that's one thing about black folk. They have a tenacity, man, to just thrive. Seemed like when things are going bad, back in the 90s, back in the 1800s, these folks went to these universities and they got their education.
Yeah.
And then they didn't stay put in South Carolina. They came north. I think Milwaukee was probably one of the worst places they could have came. It really was. It really, when you look at it, when you read the history of Milwaukee,
yeah,
it really one of the worst places. But they came and they created something.
Yeah.
So now the vision that they had and the mission that they had creating this bank, why? Not because just to create a bank. I mean, they were, really wanted to stay with the other banks, but the other banks wouldn't accept them.
Right.
And so they said, we're going to do this because of leadership and because of vision and because of mission.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got leadership, you got vision and mission, that stuff lasts for a long time.
Right.
In this case, 100 years.
Right.
And so now just think right now, Black Milwaukee, the potential that we have now to really take this city, so to speak, from a financial perspective. You want to have your money someplace where you can relate to the people that are handling your money, not just a number on some machine, some AI number, if you will. But you can actually go in there and relate to folks that's handling your money. You can talk to them and relate to them. That's important.
Right.
You want to be able to relate to people that handle your money. You want to be able to know. You want to be able to go there and talk to the bank president that handle your money. I mean, you go. I mean, I know how hard you work at that bank.
Oh yeah.
And that's why you want to have your money.
Right.
You really do. I took a class at Holy Redeemer back in the Holy Redeemer Church of God in Christ. Me and my wife and others from the church was taking some training over there. And one of the instructors was Pastor Daniel's sister before we passed, Hattie Daniels. And that's one of the things she said.
And I knew her.
Yeah, Hattie said one of the most important things that a person can do when it comes to banking is really know the bank president. Now, how many black folks have that chance to know the bank president?
Yeah, well, you don't if you're banking at some of these large institutions.
Exactly.
But if you bank at Columbia, well, then that's a different conversation.
And and see, that's my story. I said that because that's exactly what happened to me. We organized our church back in 93, and in 95, 2 years later, we're in a position to purchase our building. So we went to Columbia Savings and Loan. The Lord had that thing set up so that when the person that we was buying our building from had an account in Columbia.
Okay.
So I mean,
see, we're gonna need to talk more about that. I don't want to rush that story. Right. We got to go to a break for right now. But when we come back after the break, I want to talk about that in some more detail.
Right,
Mr. Fuller.
right.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. I have Dr. MOSE Fuller, one of the board of directors for Columbia Savings and Loan Association, in the studio with me this morning. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Fuller.
Thank you for inviting me.
So glad to have you here. We are taking the time this morning on this very last Thursday of Black History Month to talk about the Black history that is Columbia Savings and Loan Association. And we talked a little bit about Wilbur Halyard. We talked about his wife, Artie Halyard, the two co-founders of Columbia Savings and Loan Association. And I wanted to just talk a little bit more, a couple more things just to mention about Artie, because I never had the opportunity to meet her. She passed away in 1989. Did you ever get a chance to know her?
No, I didn't meet her. I came in really became associated with the bank in 95.
Okay.
A few years
Okay.
before I came.
So a few years after she had passed on.
Mhm.
Well, in any event, her husband passed away back in 1963. So he died
Wow.
pretty young. He was in his 60s
Yeah.
still, if my math is right. And by then, though, they had grown this association to $4 million
Wow.
from that $10. I still don't know how you start a bank with $10. I don't know. I just don't.
$10 was a lot of money during that time.
Yeah,
man.
I'm sure it was much more than it is
What did
today.
Debo?
But Debo said, don't ask him. He don't know about 1924.
Yeah, $10, boy. You could buy a lot of money, boy. You could buy a lot of stuff with $10. Oh, you could do a whole lot with $10.
We're talking an era where what potato chips were a nickel or something.
Yeah,
that.
penny. It wasn't a whole lot of cookies,
Like
Yeah, man, I was born in 51, and man, we could go out there and get with a dime.
Wait, not Doc. What, 51?
Yeah.
Oh, you just flipping it around. You was born in 15, wasn't you? 1915.
That's where we're going this morning. Is that where we're going?
I didn't stutter.
All right, Doc.
I'll just sit real still over here then. I don't want him coming for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so $10 was much more than it is today, but still, they had to sacrifice a lot to build and to do what they did to get to $4 million, which that's a lot of cheese even now. But imagine back in the 1950s to have grown something like this to that point, with community support and cooperation, and maybe in part because people didn't have other options, but that was a good thing. Then put your money in your own community. There wasn't anything wrong with that. So she succeeded her husband as the president of Columbia once he passed away. And according to my research, that made Artie Halyard the first female president of a financial institution in the state of Wisconsin.
First female.
How about that? Yeah. For blazing a trail. Yeah.
Where those applause at, man?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I think Artie Halyard.
He deserves that.
There we go.
He deserves that.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. So then there was new leadership, obviously, at the bank by the time you became affiliated, but you were beginning to tell us about your church and the building that your church was able to purchase. So talk about that a little bit, Dr. Fuller. Tell us what that was all about.
We organized, St. Timothy Baptist Church was organized in 1993. And 2 years later, in 95, we met in the YMCA, we met in the MPS, some MPS schools, churches do those types of things. And so in 1995, the congregation said, I think we should purchase a building. So the pastor that was pastoring Trueheart Baptist Church on where my church is now, Titonia Nash, Pastor McFarland, got together, and Columbia had his, Columbia Savings and Loan has his mortgage. And so that was a good thing. And I didn't know anything about Columbia Savings and Loan then. So I went down there and talked. And when we had the money, that was important enough to put down, talked with Mr. Gary. But here's the part about it, that even if you had the money and you went to other institutions that didn't quite understand, the culture of the church and the impact that the church has in the community, they probably wouldn't have took a chance on you.
Right.
But Mr. Gary did.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know me. I didn't know him. But here's what he knew. He knew the history of Columbia Savings and Loan. He knew the vision and the mission of the founders of Columbia Savings and Loan. And he also knew the struggles that the bank had gone through and the work and the impact that the bank had on the community. But this is important, the impact that the church has on the community. And I think that's the trend. When you look at struggle, Black folks struggle in this country, the church is the centerpiece with the movement, with Dr. King and all of the others. It's the church. It's the moral perspective on how people are going to live, and the goodness of people. See, a lot of institutions that don't have that relationship, and sometimes money can destroy that type of relationship. When you got a lot of money, you don't need people. Sometimes you have a lot of money, I don't need you. That's kind of like where we are now in this country. When we look at the leadership of this country, see, you can't ever forget the significance of people. And I think that's the true essence of Columbia Savings and Loan Association, Columbia Savings and Loan Bank, is that the leadership has always understood the significance of people in the equation, and the impact that any institution is going to have is going to be based on how well you relate to the people and how well you treat the people.
That's absolutely true. That's an absolute fact. And I have an example of that happened just yesterday when I was in the lobby at Columbia, and our president, Mr. Ernest Jones, the president and CEO and the chair of the board, Ernest Jones, was in the lobby along with Gulbas Gill, who is our executive director of lending and finance. And so the three of us were in the lobby yesterday, and one of the customers came in and called each one of us by name. We called him by name, greeting him. And then another customer came in. Oh, that's Mr. So-and-so. Haven't seen him in 20 years, but I know him from a prior life in a prior bank. And but we're all standing there talking. And then a friend of mine, because everybody was introduced who didn't know one another, but a friend of mine happened to be at the bank as well. And when we left, she said, wow, what I love about this, what I just saw, your customers come in and they know you guys. They know the president of the bank. He's standing there in the lobby. He's a real person. He's in person, right? They know him by name. They could call him by name, and they knew me by name and could call him. Oh, yep, she's a bank's attorney. Oh, yep, okay, we know this gentleman too. And she was so impressed that the customers, and it was, it happened earlier in the day as well, but she saw multiple times when customers came into the bank, they knew us and we knew them. So our people, Black people, are very relational. I keep using that word as describes us, because that's just how it is. Even today, when I was leaving to come here to the station, there was a young lady standing in the lobby, and I walked out of my office and she said, is that your office now? And I said, yes. Well, it has been from such and such a time. And so she asked me, well, is there a new leadership in the bank? And I went back and I told her, well, the president of the bank, Mr. Jones, has been the president of the bank for about 2.5 years now. So it's relatively new, but it is not brand new. And then the team of people, in fact, I mentioned you being on the board of directors for going on, 6 years now. Same thing with Ernie. And then the others that have joined. There's Steve Moore, who is a former state regulator. Steve has been on the board for about 3 or 4 years himself now. Not quite the time that you and Ernie have been on the board, but there he is with his wealth of experience, to contribute. And then the remainder of the team, I mentioned Gulbas Gill. We've got Danielle Freeman working in our teller area, although she's my executive assistant and Ernie's executive assistant, but she is wearing multiple hats now, doing what needs to be done to keep things going. We have Chris Conrad, who is a loan officer with the bank, but he pitches in and helps out wherever is needed. We're going to be doing some work with Latanza Parnell, who is, or in fact, we already are. I take that back. I shouldn't say it as if it's coming. It has come already, because she came in the bank last week and I gave her a folder of assignments of things that we need to have an accountant look into on our behalf. as well as Trinity Moore, who, even though Trinity is a full-time college student, she's very smart. She's an accounting and finance major. And we're lucky to have her on a part-time basis because her degree is her primary focus right now because she's a student at UWM, along with my niece Olivia, who is also a full-time college student. So Olivia is there to work with us in the Teller area when school is out. But when school is in session, she's all the way up at UW Oshkosh. So we don't get to have her unless, she's on spring break, winter break, or summer break. So we'll be seeing her in a couple weeks for spring break, and she's going to help out with things. So we do have a team of people that, are just passionate about what we're doing. You mentioned earlier that, that even with Artie and Wilbur, that it was really a God ordained mission that they were on to do what they did to kick this thing off and get it up and running. And I feel that same draw with what I do. What brings me there every day when I have a whole law firm to go run?
Yeah.
But I start my days and I end my days at Columbia. And that's why I get in early. That's why I work late. This is why I work on the weekends, because I want to see this bank be more prosperous than ever before. And I am absolutely convinced that under the leadership of Mr. Jones and the rest of the team, we all do our part, that's exactly what we're going to have. That's exactly where we are.
And, that's what I see, with the bank also, and see, one of the other, when you look at the founders, we always go back to the vision of the founders. And one of the other thing I have under here is overcoming early challenges. I was talking about how Mr. Gary took a chance on St. Timothy Baptist Church, which has 2 years in existence. He said, okay, we're gonna take this chance. You got the down payment, and we're gonna lend you the money. And that's what's happened. And that has started a relationship, what, a 30-year almost relationship from 1995 to where we are now. And that's because of the leadership of the bank, like what we have now, understood the people that you deal with.
Right.
A lot of time when you're not part of that community, you don't know the bank, you president, that's huge. I'm going to say that over and over again. You want to put your money, listeners, my name is MOSE, I'm your friend. You want to put your money somewhere where you can go ahead and talk to folks that's handling your money.
Right.
And Columbia Savings and Loan is that bank. And so that's the story, that's the history, and me being a part of, the bank for since 1995 and being on the board was just like the thing that, you can try to make a little impact on people. And this is an institution that you can really do it through, because everybody in the community need to have some type of financial, some place where they can save their money, where they can where they can put their money, where they can go in and talk to somebody, and Columbia Saves and Loan is that place. And one of the things that you do when you teach them that we should all be saving some of our money, putting our money somewhere for a rainy day. And what better place to put it than Columbia Savings and Loan, knowing the history of that bank and 2 great leaders. And then, another thing that maybe that should be talked about when we're talking about, how the bank was, how the sacrifices that was made. And one of the other things that's so important when I look at this as a pastor, and I've been married to my wife almost 40 years. And so me and Sister Fuller, Geneva Fuller, we've been married 38 years. And so now this couple, they were working together. I know that. I know they were working together, but here's something else I know about this couple, and the reason that the business was successful. And then when you got a business, when you start a business in the midst of struggle, all of this go into play. The relationship of this marriage. I'm not saying they didn't have any problem, but the problem they had wasn't enough to do anything to keep the vision from, to keep the vision, to stunt the vision. Right. They had a good relationship. Mm-hmm. They had a good marriage, and they had a vision that both of them bought into.
Mm-hmm.
and it made it happen. And 100 years later, because of that foundation, man, the business is still going. I mean, that's the type of bank that I would want to be related to, a bank that have come up from the grave, so to speak.
Right.
And it's still in existence.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
really?
And and I
literally up from the grave.
I would like to take the opportunity as well then to encourage particularly our churches in the community to come and put some money in the bank with Columbia, because Columbia is still a mission bank. And by that, I mean that, Columbia does loans for people that might not otherwise qualify or to be able to receive a loan somewhere else. Go ahead, Jermaine.
So I have a quick question for you guys. So for those people out there that need a second chance, how do you guys help those people?
Well, we have lenders on our staff that have access to resources and seminars and materials where we kind of help and we guide people. Sometimes people might need some help getting their credit cleaned up, which is why every once in a while I'll talk about credit related topics here on the show. And there's opportunities to go more in depth with that sort of thing if that's what people need. But it's just a starting point. Sometimes there's down payment assistance that might be available, or the bank works in tandem sometimes with one of the partner banks to host seminars where we invite people to come. All you got to do is show up. Lunch is served. You get to meet with the lenders, talk, because there's typically not a large crowd of people. We'll have 3 or 4 people there that can meet with you and, just talk about your personal circumstance or schedule an appointment and just come and sit with one of our loan officers.
So they can pretty much get hands-on experience with you guys, and it can help them with turning their situation around.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Because I believe in second chances. That's for sure. I mean, don't we all need them? We're human, right? Everybody does.
To pick, that's kind of like what happened to St. Timothy Community Baptist Church. 2 years in existence, and you're gonna go into a bank and ask for a loan to buy a building.
Right.
That's what the president did. He gave us kind of like that not only that first chance, but also that second chance.
Right.
I shouldn't have been getting that money, because I wasn't old enough, hadn't been out there long enough. And see, that's what
in the natural, you shouldn't be getting that money, but in the spiritual realm, that money was yours, not yours, but you know what I mean. The banks and or so the churches.
Yeah, and that's where we are as an institution. See, we can never exclude God from the operation of these institutions, because we're God's people, and what we need, and institutions are there in order to benefit the people.
Right.
And that's kind of like where we are now with our country. One of the things as a pastor, when we view it, we got to always say, what God is in the midst of all of the chaos. God is still on the throne, and he's still in control. So then we're not going to really worry about what happened. We're just going to do everything that we're doing like our bankers doing. We're working hard. I know folks are working hard. I go down there and say, man, these folks are working hard. Man, I know you.
I know.
You got the phone over here. And how many computers you got in your room? About 3?
Yeah, there's at least 3 computers.
Oh, man, you're working all of them. And that's a good thing, though. The work is good.
Yeah.
And we're doing a great job for this community, man. Columbia Savings and Loan, and like I said here, is a beacon of progress.
There we go.
A beacon of progress. Think about that. And that's what they did. A beacon of progress in the community. It's a beacon of progress in the community, but it's a beacon of hope also.
Right. Absolutely right.
That's what it is.
No, yeah. That's absolute fact. And that's why I'm passionate about it, and why I'm so committed to this. And I'm going to let our president come on the show and speak for himself about his passion and commitment and what drives him. But I think it's God ordained. I'll say that.
You see, since you brought up the president, I think it's apropos to talk about that a little bit. Ernie and I came on, President Jones and I came on. I call him Mr. President, young guy. Call him Mr. President, But he and I came on together, and here's what I know. And I tell him that all the time. I said, he had no aspirations whatsoever. None to be the president of the bank. Not any.
I know.
Just like Moses Moses, you look at the Bible, you look at the leadership of Moses. Moses had no aspiration to lead the people of Israel. He said, hey, Moses made every excuse. I can't talk. Get somebody else to do it. I'm not good enough. But God won't let him off the hook.
Right.
That's the same thing with Attorney Jones being the president of and I want the people to understand what I'm saying, because I've been there from the inception, from his coming into the bank, being on the board, and where he is right now. I said, you know what, Mr. President, you can say what you want to say, but I'm looking at this thing from a spiritual perspective. You're here because God wants you to be here.
I believe it.
You don't have none, you don't have all, but he did work.
Mm-hmm.
He did work with banking. He would all of his as an attorney, the type of work that he did was around banking
so attorney for the state. He too a former regulator.
Yeah,
and just extremely overqualified in every
a bank president.
Yeah.
I mean,
so well qualified, overqualified, whatever. I just
and then he came in. I said, so now what you have to do? I said it's going to be hard for you to realize what I'm saying to you, because you don't have a spiritual mind. You're really not going to be able to understand what I'm saying. So God got you here for a reason. Mm-hmm. This bank had come for at that time it wasn't quite 100 years, but your leadership is to get this bank ready to go into the next millennia,
right?
The next 100 years.
Yeah,
that's what your job is going to be.
Yeah,
and you didn't ask for it,
right?
And it's good you didn't try to get it. You didn't try to maneuver. You know how people do for position.
Well, yes, and I've seen it. So that wasn't the case here.
No, it wasn't the case.
And this is why I have referred to Ernie many times as our reluctant leader, because he didn't want it.
No,
you're absolutely right. But to the point that you just made, though, he very much has a spiritual mind, and he very much understands why he was called to this role, or these roles, I should say, plural, because he's wearing all three roles: the president, the CEO, and the chair of the board. He's wearing them, and he is wearing them well.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Absolutely. He is doing an excellent job, man. To be thrown into. Think about that. You know? Yeah, but he's doing a great job. Well qualified.
Absolutely.
Well qualified.
Absolutely.
Work,
absolutely. And just a pleasure to work with. I can't speak highly enough. I was going to just point out, because it looks like, I know there's might be an issue with the phones, but there is a friend of mine that is Peaches Reynolds that called in and was able to relay a message. So Peaches, thanks for listening. First of all, haven't talked to you in a while, but it's good to know that you called in, and you mentioned that we should acknowledge Dr. Finlayson and Dr. Pollard. And I think that relates to North Milwaukee State Bank rather than Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Shout out to North Milwaukee State Bank, even though we know that North Milwaukee is no longer open and operating, but that bank certainly served the community in Milwaukee for, I believe, close to 50 years. Yeah. So sure, that is surely worth acknowledging when we're talking about Black history. So thank you, Peaches, for calling in to point that out. I just wanted to acknowledge that I did get your call. So yeah, Dr. Fuller, what else do you want to say about Columbia Savings and Loan? I know that I want to underscore here and bold that we are asking for the local churches to come and put a deposit with the bank, because again, our missions are aligned. The churches are here to help the people, and so is Columbia Savings and Loan Association. So I'm going to encourage that at this point to either stop in the bank at 2020 West Fond du Lac Avenue, and we will talk a little bit more about all of this and some final comments from Dr. Fuller when we come back from our break. Thank you so much for listening.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time. And skip the regular line at the airport and pay for speedy security. Imagine not having to quickly unpack and pack at the place you already came packed to. And wearing your shoes the whole time you're there? You can't put a price on that kind of luxury. Well, actually you can, and you paid for it. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For speedy security. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Are you a parent of a 2 to 8 year old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month, then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensate for their testimonials, sponsored by Age of Learning.
Here's your updated forecast. Cloudy today with areas of light rain, or to high near 43 with winds breezy from the west. Tonight, mainly cloudy, low near 30. Cloudy with occasional sunshine on Friday. Chance of seeing some light rain. Early high near 51. Then will cool to 45 as a cold front works its way through, producing some strong westerly winds. Friday night, cloudy, low near 21. I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood on AM 860, The Voice.
AURN News.
I'm Jamie Jackson. The Trump administration announced this week that it will take control of determining which journalists participate in the White House press pool, marking a significant shift from decades of tradition. The press pool changes follow other major shifts implemented by the Trump administration since taking office in January. Eugene Daniels, president of the White House Correspondents Association, said in part, quote, since its founding in 1914, the WHCA has sought to ensure that the reporters, photographers, producers, and technicians who actually do the work 365 days of every year decide amongst themselves how these rotations are operated as to ensure consistent professional standards and fairness in access on behalf of all readers, viewers, and listeners. He also added that the White House did not give the Correspondents Association board any heads up or have any discussions about this major change. For AURN News, I'm Jamie Jackson.
Make history at the amazing.
Welcome back to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you so much for listening. Today we are taking the last Thursday in Black History Month to talk about Columbia Savings and Loan Association, which if this isn't Black history, I don't know what Black history
That's
is.
right.
Isn't that right, Doc Fuller?
That's right.
Yeah, so thank you
Real
for being
Black history. Yeah.
real Black history, right. Thank you for being here with us today and just letting the audience know all of your wonderful thoughts about things here related to Columbia, all things related to Columbia and the history of the bank and the current staff too and team of leadership that we've talked about here. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know there were some more things, some more comments that you wanted to make about Columbia Savings and Loan Association. So I want to turn it over to you, Dr. Fuller, and let you say what you'd like to say.
You know, one of the things that I would really like to say that really could make a really big difference. I know there's a lot of, in our community, there are some larger churches in our community. You know, I don't know what kind of, you know, if they have any money at the bank. I would challenge those churches, challenge those pastors. Churches like Holy Redeemer, St. Mark's on 16th and Atkinson, Holy Redeemer over here on 35th Street. You know, I don't know if they got money at the bank, but I would challenge those churches, the pastors of those churches. Put some of that money that I know you can have your money wherever you want it, but some of your money need to be at that institution. Other churches, Christ the King Baptist Church. I came out of Christ the King. Pastor McVicker, he's my pastor. I came out of that church. And you know, the Christian Faith Fellowship, all of these, you know, Greater New Birth, you know, Pastor Burke, I know all of these guys. Mm-hmm. These guys, they ain't got no money at that bank. They should have some money at that institution. They not only should their church have some money at that institution, but they should have an account there. Okay. That's just full of talking.
Yeah.
Now I know them. Now we can talk about it. I know them. I know that's the case. Look, we're in a struggle. Everybody got to be in the struggle, man. Mm-hmm. Because I know some of your people, they need it. They need it, man. And so I'm challenging all of these big churches in this community. Go to 20th and Fond du Lac, open up an account. Maybe you had one that had an account there, you got mad and left. Go back.
There you go.
Go back, man. That's just it. But this is bigger than I feel, and this is about survival. This is about impacting the community. And if preachers can't do it, who gonna do it? We're the ones. All these new churches that's out here. Go down there. Every church, every pastor in this community needs to stop by there and look at it and say, how can I be part of it?
You know what, Pastor? I like exactly what you said, because if you can get everybody together and show unity, you can really, really move the whole goalpost.
You can move it.
And it's power in numbers, just even biblically.
Yeah.
One can chase 1,000,
yeah.
Two can chase 10,000. So that's telling you it's power in numbers.
Right.
So with that, I think that we should launch some type of campaign for the churches to join that bank, lobby for them to join that bank, because I'm sure it'd be beneficial if everybody can get on one page and move the goalposts. It'd be great for Black people.
That's right. It would be. Yeah. And there's no question about it, because when you go to churches, people that go to church live all over this city. They live in every community, every zip code, 06, 12, 10, 08, right. 16, all the 22, all the other zip codes that go to all of these churches. See, but the pastors are the leadership. The pastors are leadership, and people follow the pastor. So I challenge all those pastors to have these larger churches. Hey, they should have them. Some of that money should be in Columbia Savings and Loan. I don't care what they say. They might say, well, I did it before. I didn't like it. I was mad. Somebody made me mad. Forget about that stuff. The time now is to go back and make a difference. That's my call. That's my challenge to Black pastors as a pastor. And I believe that I understand what pastoring is all about. I've been out here over 30 years, so I know what it's all about.
Well, it sounds like a sermon to me. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Okay, so thank you again, Dr. Fuller, for joining us today to talk about Columbia Savings and Loan Association. We're at 2020 West Fond du Lac Avenue. If anybody would like to stop in, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we'll be back with you next week with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you.
God bless.
Serving the black community for nearly 60 years.
This is the most important.
This is Milwaukee's Voice.
And a sound blueprint.
860 AM and 106.5 FM. WNOW.